Okay, the thumb movement that we're going to be assessing today is thumb CMC abduction. So starting off, we're going to have our patient seated and the forearm supported in a neutral position on the table with, and we're looking at thumb CMC abduction, which is this motion in a plane perpendicular to the palm. Away from the palm. And for range of motion, we're going to have the axis of the goniometer at the styloid process of the radius, the stationary arm along the second metacarpal, and the movement arm along the first metacarpal. So go ahead and do that movement if you can. Okay, and the compensatory, you can leave it there. And the compensatory movement here that I was looking for is thumb CMC extension, which I didn't see any of, and for this I got 40 degrees of thumb CMC abduction, and I would take that end position and subtract the starting position or resting position from that number, and do that right now. Starting position here is 11 degrees, so 40 minus 11 is 29 degrees of thumb CMC abduction. And if I wanted to assess the strength of the thumb abductors in an against gravity position, I would have the patient in a fully supinated forearm position supported on the table. Extend these, and we're moving in this direction, so go ahead and do that. Okay. And I see that she has full range of motion here against gravity, at which point I'll stabilize the first, the second through fifth metacarpals, and the distal forearm on the ventral side, and I will provide resistance on metacarpal 1, so don't let me pull you down, let me pull you down, let me pull you down. So that would be a 5 in thumb CMC abduction, and if I wanted to assess that in a gravity minimized position, if she couldn't produce any motion in an against gravity position, I would have the forearm be in neutral supported on the table, and I would just ask for that motion. So go ahead and do that motion, and I can see that she's at her full range of motion in a gravity minimized position, so that would be a 2 for thumb CMC abduction. All right, the movement at the wrist we're going to be assessing is wrist extension. So I am going to, for the range of motion, I am going to be having the patient in a seated position with the forearm fully pronated and supported on the table and the wrist hanging off the edge of the table. And axis of the goniometer for range of motion is going to be along the lateral aspect of the wrist over the triquetrum, and the movement arm or the stationary arm is going to be along and parallel to the lateral midline of the ulna, and the movement arm is going to be parallel to the fifth metacarpal. And so the movement that we're looking for is this. The compensatory movement that we're looking for would be supination. So if they supinate at the end range of the motion or start to, I'd back off a little bit and then take that measurement. So go ahead and do that movement for us. Right. So I am on here. I have 55 degrees of wrist extension, and if I wanted to assess the muscle strength in an against gravity position, it's the same exact as what we just set up for the range of motion, and I would just ask to see that movement, and I can see that this is her full range of motion, and I would put her in the middle range of motion, stabilize at the dorsal aspect of the distal forearm and provide pressure at the dorsal aspect of the distal metacarpals. And don't let me pull you down, don't let me pull you down, don't let me pull you down. So that would be a 5. If I wanted to assess this in a gravity minimized position, I would put the forearm in a neutral position, so thumb up, and I would just ask for that same motion. And I can see that she goes through her full range of motion here. So she can go through full range of motion in a gravity minimized position. That would make her a 2 in this case. So the forearm motion that we're going to be assessing today is forearm supination. And to assess this, we're going to have the patients in a seated position with their arm at their side and their elbow flexed to 90 degrees. We're going to have a neutral forearm, so the thumb up. If we were going to assess range of motion, we're going to have the axis of the goniometer on the lateral to the styloid process of the ulna, and we'd have the stationary arm parallel to the longitudinal axis of the humerus, and the movement arm would be lying on the ventral side of the distal radius and ulna over the ulnar and radial styloid processes. So the motion that we're looking for is this, and to tell that she's at the end range of motion, the compensation that you might see is a shoulder external rotation or abduction. So I'll be looking for that for her end range of motion, so go ahead and do that if you can. All right. And so we're here. Our styloid process is here. All right. So here I have 68 degrees of wrist supin or forearm supination, and if I wanted to assess the muscle strength of this, I would have the patient in this same position in the arm by the side, elbow flexed to 90 degrees, but I would start off in a fully pronated position for the against gravity movement. I would just ask to see if they can turn their palm up in a supination movement, and so that is an against gravity movement. I can see that she is at her full range of motion here, and so I can say that she's a 3 at this point. If I wanted to assess or upgrade her in her muscle strength, I would place her back in the middle of that range of motion, which is in the neutral position, and I would stabilize at the distal humerus, and I would provide resistance on the dorsal aspect of the distal radius in a pronating motion like this, and I would just ask that you resist my motion. So a 4 would look like if she could resist slight force, moderate force, but not maximal force. And if I wanted to assess this in a gravity minimized position, I would take this seat back. I would have her shoulder abducted to 90 degrees and her elbow flexed to 90 degrees. And I would keep this wrist position, palm down, and I would just ask for the supination movement, which is this, and to the best of your abilities, see that you can fully supinate, and that's the end range of her motion. And so I can see that she can move through full range of motion in a gravity minimized position, which would make her a 2.